Morning, everyone. I'm glad you found me because I couldn't get the Facebook notification to work properly. So good morning and thank you for looking for me. So morning to Shirley, Viv, Eunice, Terry, Jeanette, Ginny, Nikki, Karen, Jane, Shirley, Trisha. Lovely to see you all here. And you can see that I'm going to do a bit of inky work today. Hi, Sarah. So this was actually partly something that I wanted to do on a workshop, but unfortunately I can't get all the bits now, so it's the story of my life. So I thought I would show people anyway, and wanted to work with pigment inks and show you how pigment inks work, because I often use distress inks for this similar sort of thing, but I thought that I would show you a way to use the pigment inks, and in particular the new ones out, which are the Craft Artist pigment inks. I've chosen the one that is called Rainbow because I think it's quite nice if you want to get this sort of effect. It's quite nice that you can use a card that is use colours that you haven't even got to think about, because they're all there already. And the stamp that I'm using today is the Designer Boutique stamp, one of a fairly new range. This one's called Secret Garden, and I'm sure you've seen lots of beautiful things by Lavinia Stamps, of which I hope to get soon. But this is one that's already made up with all the little fairies and everything, sprinkling the stardust, which I think is quite pretty. So we're going to do the whole of this card. I'm going to do the background with my pigment inks. I'm going to use my VersaFine Clair for my black, and a few other bits and pieces in between. Okay, so let us start with, first of all, a piece of scrap paper, because although I can get it over this surface, I'd rather not have to go through the rigmarole of clearing it up. And I'm getting myself a piece of card which I've already cut. Let's do it that way around. I've gone for a bigger piece than I'm going to need, because I'm going to trim it down afterwards, but I feel that I'd rather do that to get all the stamp on and not have to try and position the stamp absolutely exactly. It's super smooth card. I feel again that it needs to be something smooth, because pigment ink sits on the top of your piece of paper. Dye-based ink actually dyes it soaks into it, and so if you're doing this sort of blending technique, you want a pigment ink rather than a dye-based ink. The distress inks that I usually use are dye-based and hybrid inks, so they're just a little bit of a mixture of both. So that's what that one is. So I've got my ink. Now, when I'm going to put this on for blending, I prefer not to use my blending brushes for two reasons. One is that pigment inks and blending brushes, it means you've got to have two sets, because the pigment ink is not so good with a mixture on the same brush of dye-based inks. But I also think I'll get a better finish if I'm using my little blending tools. So that's what I'm going to use. So they're just like the little handle there with the Velcro top, and then you get your different colour. Well, no, you don't get, they're all the same. They're all the same, but this is how I store mine, so that I don't have to keep using them. I've got all my different colours on there, and then I can just take off and then pop the same colour on to, or a similar colour, just to colour it in. So let us make a start. I'm going to use that colour first. So I'm going to go with an orangey colour first. So I'm going to take out this one, and I'm just going to pick up a bit of my ink onto my sponge, and I'm just going to work it in to my piece of paper. So I'm coming in from the edge, and I'm just going in big circles just to get that sort of well, just to get the ink moving, really. So I'm pressing quite hard, quite firmly, and I just want to get as much ink as possible onto my paper. So just putting it down once is not going to be enough. I need to build this ink up and get some sort of nice, whoops, turning it round, get the nice colour on here. So I'm going to be working sort of about in fifths. So a fifth of my card at the top is going to be with this ink. So as I said, it's sort of like a creamy texture, the pigment ink. It's an oil based, so you can't colour with it with a brush and that sort of thing, can't add water to it. It won't work like that, but it will work by laying it down onto your work. So I'm going to pop that back. I'm going to change that over because I don't want that one anymore. And I'm going to move up one to the reddy pinky colour. I'm going to change over to that as I've already got it. Take that one. I'm going to do exactly the same. Load up. And then I'm going to work from this side again. And I am actually going to try and blend it. So I'm not just going to put it down. I'm just going to try and work it in to that previous layer. Okay. So I hope all is well. Is everybody okay? It's looking as if you are okay. We had a lovely workshop yesterday with some great friends and families of the craft fraternity. And hopefully tomorrow afternoon they'll be able to show you, because I've got one more workshop with the super people tomorrow. And so once they're with me, then people, you'll see what we've been up to in the workshops this month. So yeah, inks are a funny thing, aren't they? We need to know, we need them all, and we need to know what we're going to actually, how we're going to use them. And I think the way to think about it is, it's all very well saying, well, what ink shall I have? It's more a case of, well, what do you want to do with it then? Do you want to blend? In which case, do you want to put lots of colour down like this, or do you want to stamp with it? Do you want to colour with it? And so that's really the question you should be asking yourself when it comes to be buying inks. And I think that I've popped onto the website today on the Facebook Live section, whoops, the new distress inks, the new distress colour, the salvaged patina, because that's the distress inks, but we might not necessarily be using them. They aren't the cheapest, and if you're just starting off and you want a selection to have a go at, then these might be, well, the right thing to go for. So I'm just now going to use my mauve, and I'm going to bring that in. And again, I'm blending it in. So when I say blending, I'm going round and round in circles. It ain't any more rocket science than that. So I'm just going round and round in circles, and I'm going over my previous colour so that I'm blending, or doing my best to blend those colours in. Okay, so I'm laying down the colours. Now you could, with these little Petal inks, you could actually put the whole thing down. I'll show you in a second. By, instead of blending, if you've got super smooth card, you can actually put the whole petal down and swipe that across your papers, and that works really well as well. So, and if you're not very good at blending, if you're using one of the stamps like that we've got today, that wasn't very good English, was it? Well, you know what I'm saying. I'm going for the light blue now. You will find that you hardly notice that this is how it's going to go. It will be quite different. Hold on, I'm just picking out. I haven't really got a light blue. Ah, yeah, I have. Hold on. Here we go. There's a light blue one. So, once you put your stamp on it, if you haven't been all that successful in blending, believe me, it just looks so different. It's a very pleasing effect, I think. So I'm now going with my rainbow down to my light blue colour, and then I've got my dark blue for the very bottom. And I'm also going over those lines so that I'm blending them in. Okay. A lot of how good the blending you get is depending on what card you've got. If you've got cheap and cheerful cards, that's all very well, but your blending won't be as good as if you've got a super smooth piece of card. So do bear that in mind when you're doing it. Hopefully you can see that this is just such a creamy card, creamy ink when it's going on. It's a really nice blendable ink. So the dye-based will not work so well. You will get it will dry quicker, it will soak in to your paper. And so again, it depends entirely on what is it that you're wanting to achieve. So if you're wanting to achieve these coloured backgrounds, it's pigment inks or distress inks, depending on what your fancy is, and a lot to do with how much money you might have, to be honest with you, because the distress inks are a lot more money. So now you can see I've got my sort of rainbow effect. And because pigment ink sits on the top, it might be a tad wet. The distress inks will stay wet for much longer because they have got properties in that you can actually do something with it as well. You can move it around. So I'm just going to quickly dry this off. So that it's the drier surface to work with. It does take a little while. And that just gets the worst of it off. So before I do any more to that, I just want to show you this piece. And this piece I used with just taking the Petal inks and just literally swiping the whole of the ink pad across and blending it in a bit. So you can see it's got a very a good effect as well, a good coverage. So if you're not happy with blending, if you've got the small inks like this, or even if you've got larger inks, that's all well and good as well. So our rainbow of colour is ready to go. Let me take some of these things out of the way and get our stamping. So I'm going to be stamping my silhouette stamp. Now obviously these designer boutique stamps are the silhouette ones, so they are very, very black, they are dark, and so I prefer to use the VersaFine Clair for this one. It is one that I use an awful lot anyway, but I particularly like this. I have tried all sorts of black inks in order to achieve silhouette stamping success. VersaFine works, StazOn works, Memento works, but for an absolutely crisp dark finish, VersaFine Clair in Nocturne, the black one, works the best of all. So I'm going to pop my, because this is a rubber one, I've taken out my rubber mat there because I've already got the rubber on the stamp. So I'm just going to pop that into position and I'm going to hold it up there because I know then that that's going to be in the right place. And I'm just going to look around and think, have I got, no. I think I'm going to have to cover it with a piece of paper instead because I don't want to go over. I'm just going to pop that over there and make sure that I need to move that very slightly. I meant to have my clear one, but that ain't there. But I'm sure I'll pop that into place and then I shall hover it over the top and just make sure that that is okay. So I'm holding it in place with my magnet here and I'm inking up my background, and I am going to be careful that I keep my ink pad flat as much as possible so that I've got ink where I want it as opposed to on the background and goodness knows where. So I'm just inking that up with plenty of ink, but because I'm using the platform, I can go through a second time. So I'm going to again make sure that's over, and I'm just going to press down on here. Now I want it to be a really good image, a really thick image, so I'm going to go back a second time and just go over that again, and hopefully it will be in the right place. Now you have to bear in mind that I'm putting pigment ink on top of pigment ink, so it's not going to soak in, it's going to sit on the top, and therefore it might be a bit wet. You can always put clear embossing powder on top of this, and that would seal it. And I'm just pressing down on there to make sure. Okay, so it's got quite wet, so I'm going to have to dry that off. So beautiful, beautiful butterflies and winged little cherubs and whatever. Just going to put that ink on there. Love it. So I'm going to get my gun and dry that off. Oh, got it everywhere as well. And just dry that off because we don't want to. You can see, unfortunately, my ink underneath it was just, I should have just dried it off a little bit more because it's not quite as crisp as I would like it to be. And that's purely because the paper underneath was not completely dry. I did put an awful lot of colour on it. So we just need to make sure that the black is completely dry, because I'm going to trim that down. Okay, but now I think you can see that having put my stamp on top of it, it's just already taken away from seeing that it was anything but an already made magical background there, which I think is lovely. So I'm now going to trim this down so that I have only got this as an outline. So I'm going to pop that into my guillotine, and I'm going to start off by cutting along the one straight line that I know is absolutely straight. So I'm going to pop that into my machine here, and I know that I've not got it tucked against this edge because I also know that it isn't completely straight. So I'm just going to get it straight, and then I know that I have at least now got one edge that is completely straight, and then I can now make sure that it's butted up to the top, and I know then that all my other edges will be completely straight. So just trim this one off, and finally the one at the bottom. And I'm going to mount this onto a black piece of card, which I'm going to first of all measure this to make sure that I get it right. So this measures 9 centimeters wide and 19.5 long. So I'm going to put half a centimeter onto each of those sides with my black piece of card. So I'm going to do 9.5 and 20 onto here. So that when I bring my card in, I'm then going to have a black border all the way around like that. Okay, now I haven't finished. Oh, there's more. So let's bring my piece of paper back in first. Now, with this collection, with the Designer Boutique, it also comes, although I have to say, I'm not actually going to use it today, but I just wanted to show you all the bits that it comes with. It comes with, or not comes with, you can get this lovely Hello My Friend, it's called, stamp set, sentiment set, and it's got some really nice little things on there. It's got all sorts of little things like stars and seahorses and everything, because the whole collection has got lots more in it, but you've got some lovely little wording. So obviously with this one, it should be, or not should be, but have a fairy nice day, which could go up here. Sending fairy kisses, sending birthday wishes. The best love story is the one you write together. Wherever you go, go with all your heart. Memories are special moments that tell our story. Have a wonderful day. Celebrate. Oh, I'm not quite so sure about that. But there's some lovely little bits and pieces in there if you fancied any of those. So they're on the website there as well. However, I'm not going to use them today. What I am going to use is my clear Wink of Stella. It's like glitter in a brush. And I'm just going to go in to the fairy wings here. And I'm just going to pop a little bit. So I'll show you in a second. If you haven't got anything like this, you could always use some dry clears glue and then sprinkle on some glitter that would take that up. But this really, when it says a wink, I'm not even so sure that you're going to be able to see it. Yeah, just about. It just gives a little hint of it. You just sort of squeeze it and a bit more comes out, so that's better. So it's just like painting on a little bit of glitter here. I think you can see that now. Very pretty. I mean, you could pop these fairy wings onto vellum, cut them out, stamp it out again and cut them onto vellum and then stick them on. Put a bit more on there. But it just gives a little bit of a definition just by putting a little bit of fairy dust onto there. Okay. And then when that dries, you've got that little sheen that's coming up there, which looks quite pretty. So that's my Wink of Stella. And then I'm going in with my Posca pen, sorry. I got mine on Amazon. It's just, I don't know what they're for actually. I'm not quite sure. Anyone know? I think they might be writing on whiteboards or something. I'm not quite sure. I don't know. But they have got like a ball bearing in them. You can hear that. And it's like a liquid ink. So I found that this is my best one for a white pen. Now I can tap it and some of the white will actually come out. If you can you see that? Some of the white actually comes out. And it's not spraying absolutely everywhere like a paintbrush would do. So I'm going to use that to start off with, and I'm just going to sprinkle that fairly positioned, if you see what I mean. So I'm trying not to get onto any of the fairies and onto any of the black like that. I have got a bit more of positioning over that. Now that will dry in. So then I'm going to go in with my ink and I'm just going to put some larger dots. And it's got like a nib that goes in and out. You know what I mean by that? So if you actually press it in, you get a big blob like that. We didn't want a big blob like that, did we? Oh, that's the moon. That is the moon. It was going so well. We don't want that, but if you press in, you get a bigger dot. So I'm just going to pop these bigger dots by just tapping into it rather than popping it on. Okay. I think that's a meteor shower coming in there now, isn't it? So you've got all little bits and pieces onto there. So that's my Posca pen. Okay, you can get them in different colours, but I prefer the white one obviously for this, but you can get silver and gold, so for Christmas they're ideal for that as well. So let's pop this onto our black piece of card. I'll just pop a little bit of glue on there. So a flat card. Oh, hold on. Nearly finished this glue. A flat card, but with a nice little interest to it. That's there. Don't want to touch some of it because some of it will still be a bit wet. And then pop that onto my DL card. Hopefully that should fit in there with a nice little border all the way around as well. So, pigment inks. Pigment inks are ideal for blending and embossing. They sit on the top of the surface of your cards, and they have an oil base, so you can't watercolor with them. So you can't paint with them as such. Okay, so you can do beautiful blending, which you can't do with a dye-based ink so well. You won't get such a good blend because, as you could probably see, it was going on like with cream almost effect. So you have got other things that would do this blending technique would be these. These are the new colours from the Ranger, which are called Salvaged Patina. Now, if any of you are David, oh blimey, can't think of his name now, the singer. What's the singer's name? David, oh, whatever, come on. What's the name of the singer called David somebody? David Essex. David Essex. He had a song, and every time I keep picking up this Salvaged Patina, I keep thinking of that song where he sings something about Argentina or something. I don't know. But anyway, where they come up with the names, I don't know. However, I do have a very, very few of the distress inks, the distress oxides, and I also have got the distress spray in it and the distress embossing glaze. So they are all on the Facebook section if you are keen on any of those. Also on the Facebook section, we have got the lovely Secret Garden and also the Hello My Friend stamp set. So all of the elements that you've got there are available today. What is not available from me is neither, I'm afraid, the Wink of Stella, because I've sold out, and I had to get this elsewhere because this isn't like a craft thing as such, but I did get the Posca pen on Amazon. Okay, so lots of things there showing you, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. But have a go. If you've got some pigment inks at home, have a go with just blending on a piece of paper. It does matter what piece of paper you've got. You should use a smooth surface if you can. Mirror card, it will shine off because that's really too smooth, but something like super smooth white card is perfect. And just see what a different blend that you can get, because I think that they just work fab with something like that. And if you're not sure on what colours to get and don't want to spend out huge amounts of money, why not treat yourself to a pigment ink pen, because they're quite, the Petal ones, you've got all those colours. I didn't use anything else but that box, as you can see, and yet I've achieved that lovely effect. Okay, so looking forward to seeing people on Monday. Look out for all their lovely makes on Monday afternoon. I'll be back on Wednesday, which is the 12th, with a nice little treat for you. I couldn't remember what it was, but yeah, got a nice little treat because I'm going to see my baby. And so Wednesday will be the last live for a few days because I'm going over at long last to see my baby. Only 243 days since I've last seen him. So this Wednesday, the 12th, is a little bit special because I've got a nice little thing to say cheerio to you with, all in stock, all ready to go out before I go away. So if you can join me at 11 on Wednesday. If you can't join me only on Sundays, I will be back on the 23rd of May, but I won't be here next week. Website's up and running, don't have to worry about that, and I ain't going nowhere until Friday. So thank you very much for joining me today. Have a lovely day, whatever it is that you're doing. Look after each other. And well, have fun. Go and have a go. Go and have a blend with something. It will be great. So take care, everyone. See you soon. Bye.